What's going on YouTube, United Gamer here, and welcome back to all weapon locations and showcases here in Dark Souls 3. In today's episode, I'm going to be showing you guys all the Greatswords that you can find throughout this game. If you find this series helpful, be sure to give the video a thumbs up and comment below what other weapon I should do next in this series. In the description below, you'll find a timeline of all the weapons that I'm going to be showing off, so just in case you guys are looking for a specific Greatsword, be sure to look down there first. Also a link to a playlist of the weapons that I have done so far and that I will be doing. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys all 14 Greatswords and their locations and showcasing their movesets along with what it is upgraded with, if it can be infused or buffed, what it scales with, and pretty much any kind of detail you can think of for each weapon. Now, even though there are 14 Greatswords throughout this game, most of those are earned with trading boss souls back with Ludlith and Firelink Shrine. So for weapons like that don't have a specific location, I will tell you what the boss is and what area he is located in. If you have any questions, you can comment below or tweet me at UnitedGamer101, but let's go ahead and get started with it, guys. First up, we have a classic weapon that's been throughout the Soul series, and that's known as the Claymore. This is one of the more basic Greatswords, as it's upgraded with Titanite shards, as it can be infused as well as buffed. It has a C scaling in strength and a D scaling in dexterity, but it can be a very good efficient weapon as you find it very early on in the game. The Claymore has one of the more default weapon art skills, which is stance. While in this stance, you use a normal attack to break a foe's guard from below and a strong attack to slash upward with a forward lunge that can deal immense damage. Considering this is a very default weapon, there isn't really too much to say about it. Besides that, the fact that you get it very early on in the game, this can be used as a very good strength weapon as you get at the High Wall of Lothric that early in the game. Other than that, it's a pretty basic weapon. In pretty much the first official world of the game, the High Wall of Lothric, coming from the bonfire High Wall of Lothric, you want to follow this path that I take. You're going to go up to where the dragon blows fire, so there will be a dragon for you, there is not for me, so be aware of that. What I recommend doing is there's going to be a gate under where the dragon blows fire. Run through that gate, go ahead and open it up so you have a safeguard to get out, and then you're going to run back out as soon as the dragon blows fire. It's going to be at this top right corner. Watch out for the guy with the great axe because he can do some great damage. Go ahead, grab your claymore, and go ahead and jump off the cliff edge so you can avoid the fire. Next up, we have another weapon that's been with us throughout the Soul series, and that is the Bastard Sword, a widely used heavy greatsword, normally wielded with 2 hands. Broad horizontal sweeping attacks makes this weapon super effective against multiple enemies, but unwielding in narrow spaces. This weapon art skill is Stomp, which uses one's weight to lunge forward with a low stance and increased poise. Follow up with a strong attack for upward slash. This is basically the same thing as the Claymore, but with a different weapon art skill. This weapon is also found very early on in the game, right when you find the Claymore, so basically your deciding factor is if you like the weapon art skill Stomp or Stand. This weapon also does slightly a little bit less damage and is a little lighter. Yet again, this weapon is upgraded with Titanite shards and can be infused as well as buffed by any magic spell. Now this weapon is found with following Greyrat's questline, or at least the very early part of Greyrat. You want to free him by finding the cell key down by you find the Estus shard in the High Wall of Lothric. Go ahead and free Greyrat. Now I'm not going to do a detailed analysis of his questline. The game has been out for about 2 months and there's a ton of videos on YouTube where you can follow his questline. All you have to do is free him and you can buy this sword from him. Next up, we have the most annoying weapon for me to get throughout all 14 Greatswords, and that is the Flameburge. Is this thing super overpowered because of that's how hard it is to get? No, you just have to farm a solo enemy and it takes a long time to get this weapon. Or maybe that's just me and I have bad luck. This is yet again another pretty basic greatsword. It is found early on in the game in the Undead Settlement from farming an enemy. This one does a little bit more damage than the Bastard Sword and the Claymore, but it has a D-skilling in strength rather than a C-skilling like the other two weapons have. This weapon is upgraded with Titanite shards and it can be infused as well as buffed by any magic spell. Another difference about this weapon, it is resembling a flame, that's why it's called Flameburge, and it was crafted by mutilate flesh and induces bleeding. Definitely a cool weapon I recommend checking out. I do like the design of this weapon. Coming from the cliff underside bonfire in the Undead Settlement, you're going to come and farm this one enemy for this weapon. I recommend wearing the Gold Covetous Ring, the Mimic Helmet, pretty much anything you can do to boost your luck to get this drop. It's the only thing it can drop, I believe, but it takes forever, at least for me. It took about 4 to 5 hours. I definitely killed over 100 of them. It took so long, but eventually this guy will drop the Flameburge. Now this is not the only one you can kill, this is just the fastest way that I could find it. Next up we have our very first special greatsword that you can find in your playthrough, and this is the Hollowslayer Greatsword that you can get by trading the boss soul of the Cursed Greatwood in the Undead Settlement with Ludlith and the Firelink Shrine. This weapon is upgraded with Titanite skills all the way up to +5. This greatsword was used for a lifetime by a masked knight, harbors that fear that lurk within the minds of the Hollows, and is particularly effective against them, bestowed to a proper mirror knight long ago, two-handed to execute special sword techniques. This skill is stance, yet again while in a stance, use normal attacks to break a foe's guard, while a strong attack to slash upward with a forward lunge, a pretty powerful attack. Now seeing that this is a special weapon, it cannot be infused nor can it be buffed by any magic spell. This weapon has a D scaling in strength and a C scaling in dexterity, which is pretty unique for a lot of greatsword. As I said, you want to trade the boss soul, the Cursed Greatwood, and the Undead Settlement with Ludlith and the Firelink Shrine to acquire this weapon. Next up we have an Executioner's Greatsword that is located in the Cathedral of the Deep. This weapon is upgraded with Titanite shards all the way up to +10, and this is kind of odd for most weapons that are upgraded with just Titanite shards. This weapon cannot actually be infused. I'm guessing because it's already like it has a strength gem on it. It already has a B scaling in strength once you fully upgraded it, so unfortunately no, you cannot infuse it, but you can buff it by any magic spell. By the reading of this title you can pretty much already tell, but this weapon was used for beheadings. This sword retains a keen memory of its executioner's duty and absorbs FP from each fallen foe. The weapon art for this weapon is Stomp, which like I've said before uses one's weight to lunge forward with a low stance and increased poise, and follow up with a strong attack for a spinning slash this time, which is a little bit different. I really wish somehow this weapon art or a weapon skill could have been used something to do with like beheadings and stuff. That would be pretty cool, but unfortunately no. As I said, this weapon is located in the Cathedral of the Deep, coming from the Cleansing Chapel bonfire. You want to go pretty early in this level, so follow the route that I take. It's not really hard to find, and you will get the Executioner's Greatsword. Now, so that you guys know, there will be an ambush waiting for you as soon as you pick up this weapon, so I recommend using a Homeward Bone, or if you have the Coiled Sword Fragment, which is what I use, to get away from the skeletons, but you can go ahead and kill the skeletons or even run away. It's not hard. I just recommend go ahead and just teleporting out of there. Next up, we have a pretty cool unique weapon, which is the Wolf Knight's Greatsword, which is located in the Faron Keep. As you acquire the Abyss Watcher's Boss Soul, you can trade it to Ludleth and Firelink Shrines for this weapon. This greatsword of a knight tainted by the dark of the abyss and master of the wolf's blood of Faron. The Wolf Knight sword was the first Abyss Watcher, and his sword is more punishing against the creations of the abyss. The weapon art skill for this weapon is Wolf Sword, which while in stance, use a regular normal attack for a low spinning slash, or a strong attack for a leap forward and a vertical slashing somersault. So you do a front flip forward. This weapon art is awesome. This weapon is upgraded with Titanite skills all the way up to +5, and this weapon cannot be infused nor can it be buffed by any magic spell. This weapon is really fun to use for PvP and PvE, so I definitely recommend you check it out. As I said, you trade to Ludleth, the Abyss Watcher's Boss Soul that you get in the Faron Keep. Next up, we have another Black Knight weapon, the Black Knight Sword. This greatsword was wielded by the Black Knights who wander the lands, designed to face chaos demons. The Black Knights constantly face foes larger than themselves, and this sword's unique attack greatly reduced enemy poise. The weapon art skill for this weapon is Perseverance, which is raises its sword the name of the first lord to temporarily boost your poise. Damage reduced while activated. This weapon is upgraded with Twinkling Titanite, and this weapon cannot be infused nor can it be buffed by any magic spell. This weapon has a C scaling in strength and a D scaling in dexterity with a solid base physical attack, so I definitely recommend checking this weapon out. This weapon is found in the Smoldering Lake at the Catacombs of Karthus. Now, if you don't know how to get to Smoldering Lake, right before the High Lord Wolnir boss fight, you want to hit the bridge, and it opens up this secret area. We're coming from the Demon Ruins bonfire. Follow the path that I take, and this weapon will be on the ground. Next up, we have another special greatsword, the High Lord Wolnir's boss weapon, the Wolnir's Holy Sword. This holy sword eroded by the abyss. When Wolnir fell to the abyss, he was gripped by fear of the true darkness and pleaded to the gods for the first time. This holy sword, together with its 3 armlets stripped from the corpses of clerics, gave him some semblance of comfort. The skill of this weapon is Wrath of the Gods, which makes plenty of sense because it's a holy sword. This weapon is upgraded with Titanite skills all the way up to +5. This weapon cannot be infused nor can it be buffed by any magic spell. I've never actually personally used this weapon. Its scaling isn't so great. It has a C scaling in dexterity and a D scaling, and its actual attack isn't so great, and Wrath of the Gods itself is not a great miracle, so it's not the best weapon in the world to me, but I could be missing something. To acquire this weapon, you want to trade High Lord Wolnir's soul to Ludleth and Firelink Shrine. Next up, we have the Greatsword of Judgement, a ceremonial sword held in Pontiff Sullivan's left hand, representing the judgment of the moon, but with the magic far closer to sorcery than any existing lunar power. Its dark blue hues, deeper than the darkest moon, reflect Sorcerer Sullivan's true nature. Its weapon art skill is Stance of Judgment. Assume stance to unleash dark magic. Use normal attack for a lunging thrust, and a strong attack to emit a side-sweeping wave. This is very similar to the Moonlight Greatsword. Instead, though, it uses the Dark Moonblade. If you actually use the skill of this weapon, it actually buffs the weapon with Dark Moonblade. But besides that buff, this weapon cannot be infused, nor can it be buffed, and it is upgraded with Titanite skills all the way up to +5. Now, because I really do love Dark Moonblade, I love the look of it, and because it has a D-skilling in Strength, a D-skilling in Dexterity, and a C-skilling in Intelligence, with it already having magic based on the weapon, it is a really cool weapon, and I definitely recommend you guys try this weapon out. To acquire this weapon, you need to trade the boss soul of Pontiff Sullivan in Irithyll the Burial Valley to Ludleth and Firelink Shrine. Next up, we have a classic all the way back from Demon Souls that returned randomly into Dark Souls 3. This is the Storm Ruler. Now, I'm going to go ahead and state this. This weapon was not made to be an amazing PvP weapon. It was mainly used to be used for a boss, just to kind of, bring back some classics back from Demon Souls, a little throwback for the fans. So it's not the best weapon in the world, but it is extremely cool that they brought that into this game. This greatsword with a broken blade, also known for a giant slayer for the residual strength of the storm that brings giants to their knees. Norm the Giants once held 2 of these, but gave one to humans who doubted him and left the other to a dear friend before facing his fate as a Lord of Cinder. The skill of this weapon is the Storm King, which throws me back all the way back to Demon Souls of using this and that boss fight, which assumes a stance to imbue a sword with storm, most effective when facing giants, or a giant like stingray creature if you guys play Demon Souls. Now, unfortunately, I don't have gameplay of finding this weapon. All you do is, as soon as you enter Yorm the Giant's boss fight, run on top of his throne and you can grab it. This weapon has a C-scaling in Strength and a D-scaling in Dexterity. It cannot be infused, nor can it be buffed, and it is upgraded with Titanite skills all the way up to +5. But it is incredible that it's in this game. Next up, we have a fan favorite, a community favorite, a FromSoft favorite. This has been in every single Souls game, including Bloodborne. This is the MLGS, the Moonlight Greatsword. Now, before we get into the business, obviously I love this weapon. If you've ever looked at my banner on my channel, my guy is holding a Moonlight Greatsword. I love this weapon. I always have, and I always will. This legendary dragon weapon associated with Sieve the Peldrake, charged strong attack to its limit to unleash a Moonlight's wave. Osiros, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, the Consumed King, was infatuated with the search for the moonlight, but in the end, it never revealed itself to him. Its skill is Moonlight Vortex, which draws the sword back to thrust and unleash torrential moonlight. This weapon is upgraded with Titanite skills all the way up to +5. It cannot be infused, nor can it be buffed by any magic spell. This weapon, without a doubt, is always used for an intelligence build, as it already has 238 magic damage on the weapon, plus a B scaling and an intelligence. So definitely recommend this weapon if you're trying to do an intelligence build. If you're new to the Soul series, definitely check this weapon out. It is a fan favorite. This weapon is acquired by trading Osiros the Consumed King's soul to Ludleth and Firelink Shrine, and that boss is located in the King's Consumed Garden. Next up, we have the Drakeblood Greatsword. This greatsword was wielded by an order of knights who venerate Drakeblood. This sword, its blade engraved with script symbolizing Drakeblood, inflicts magic and lightning damage. The weapon skill of this weapon is stance. While in a stance, use normal attack to break a foe's guard from below and a strong attack to slash upwards with a forward lunge. This weapon has a D-scaling in strength and a D-scaling in dexterity and is upgraded with Titanite shards all the way up to +10. This weapon can be infused as well as buffed by any magic spell. Now I really don't know how I fully feel about this weapon. I've never really used it. It has a very low physical attack, but it does have magic and lightning attack on it. But the weird thing is it doesn't scale at all with intelligence or faith, so that's just gonna be there. And maybe you can put like a refined gem on it and do a quality build with it. I just don't see this weapon doing a lot of damage, but I could be wrong. Maybe one day I'll try it out, or you guys can let me know in the comment section below if you've tried this weapon and if you find it efficient at all. Coming from the Dragonkin Mausoleum Bonfire in Archdragon Peak, you're going to come over here to a Summoned Champion. It's right after the Ancient Wyvern boss fight. Go ahead and kill the boss, come up here, this guy's going to be summoned, you get a free backstab. It's actually a decent place to farm souls, little side note. Go ahead and kill him and he'll drop the Drakeblood Greatsword. Next up, we have another really cool weapon, and that is a Twin Princess Greatsword, and this one's really unique on how you actually acquire it. Instead of doing the usual trade loot with a boss soul for a weapon, you have to give him the Twin Princess boss soul twice to get both swords that they give you. Once you have both swords, you can go back to him and he will transpose them and fuse them into the Twin Princess Greatsword. So you will have to be in the New Game Plus to actually ever get this weapon. This weapon has a D-scaling across the boards in strength, dexterity, intelligence, and faith. Has a pretty solid physical attack and automatic fire damage. But the really cool thing about this weapon is it can produce both weapon arts from Lothric's Holy Sword and Lorien's Ultra Greatsword, and that is really awesome. But this weapon is upgraded with Titanite skills all the way up to +5, and it cannot be infused nor can it be buffed by any weapons. This sword was forged from the reunion of the inseparable swords born from the souls of Lothric and Lorien, the twin princes. Their union and a rooted curse is perpetuated by grief. All in all, it's a really cool weapon and I recommend you guys check it out. As I said, you need to get the Lothric Holy Sword and the Lorien's Greatsword, combine those with Ludleth, and he will give you this weapon. And now, for number 14 of all Greatswords in this game, we have the Firelink Greatsword that is used from the last boss in the game, Soul of Cinder. So, you will have to trade Ludleth, the Soul of the Lords, to acquire this weapon. The Lords of Cinder linked the First Flame, and this greatsword was wielded by their deific manifestation. This coiled sword, found thrust in the bonfire, existed long before the Throneless Lords themselves. The skill of this weapon is Ember. The fading flame momentarily illuminates and launches itself forward. Now, since the casual player probably assumes, or maybe even a hardcore player may assume, that since this is the very last boss's weapon, it is the best, most overpowered, most dominant weapon in the game. It isn't terrible, but it's definitely not that. It has a D-scaling in strength, a D-scaling in dexterity, has a pretty decent base attack, and it already has fire damage. So I wouldn't count it out, but it is by far not the best in the game. Obviously, there's not really a typical or a type best in the game. It's all about preference and your personal builds. but it's still not that amazing. Now, being that it is a special weapon, it cannot be infused nor can it be buffed by any magic spell, and it has Titanite scales to upgrade it all the way up to +5. And as I said, you want to trade Ludlith, the Soul of the Lords, Lord of Cinders, Boss Soul, to him to acquire this weapon. And with that, you have now collected all Greatswords in Dark Souls 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. It really helps out the video more than you'll ever know, guys. It is about 3 AM right now. I'm just getting done editing. I am purely exhausted, to be honest with you guys. I am so tired. I want to go to sleep. I've been commentating for 2.5 hours after recording all day, but it was worth it to get out this video for you guys. This was probably the most requested all locations, which was kind of funny to me because most of them are just boss soul weapons, and it's not hard to find. It's really probably been the easiest to find. It's just the most I've had to do so far, which is 14. But thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at UnitedGamer101 and Snapchat at UnitedGamer101. If you have any questions, comment below or tweet me. But as always, guys, this is not just a channel. It is a family, and I will see you guys in another Dark Souls 3 video.